and I don't quite figure out. So Mr. Trump comes in, and what is his job? Well, first, he does the Obama trick. He produces a tax cut to end all tax cuts last December. There he is. First year in office, reaches a climax, and he does what? He delivers a hundreds of billions of dollars in tax relief to corporations. The very things that have been doing better than anybody else for the last 30 years. He gives a tax cut to people who don't need it. They didn't even ask, many of them. He cuts the taxes from 35% corporate profits tax, 35% to 21%. That's a large cut, producing hundreds of billions of dollars of money that these corporations now have. They don't have to pay in taxes. And he promised, of course, like an Obama type, that this will mean rising wages and jobs. If you read the financial press, particularly the last 2 or 3 weeks, let me summarize for you. The overwhelming bulk of that money has been used on what's called stock buybacks. What the corporations are doing is taking the money they don't have to buy, they don't have to pay in taxes, and they're going into the stock market and they buy their own shares. It's very important. So take, for example, General Motors. The board of directors, and I'm not talking about them in particular, it's just an example. Board of directors now has an extra $5 billion in taxes they don't have to give to Uncle Sam. So they go into the market and they buy shares of General Motors from whoever owns them. And of course, with a sudden surge of purchasing, the stock prices go up. And why is that interesting? Because the executives of General Motors, their payments and bonuses are linked to the performance of the stock. You get this? This is not a very hard science, this business. This is called thievery. If you do this, you're going to go to jail, or the equivalent. But this is all legal. So they buy, and the stock market goes up, and we all say, oh, see, recovery. No, you morons. It's the money that isn't going to the government, which therefore hasn't got money to spend for all the things we need, that is instead being used to boost the stock market. 1% of people who own stock in this country owns 2/3 of all the stock. That's good for the 1%. That's who owns the stock market. It's good for the executives whose salaries are hooked into the value of shares. Yeah, there was a time. There are countries in the world where it's not allowed or it's limited. Not here. We have freedom. We have freedom. So what does Mr. Trump do? He does an Obama. He gives an enormous boost to the economy. That's why unemployment is low right now. There's a flush sense of lots of money, but the corporations are not hiring very many, and they're certainly not raising wages. They're buying back the stock. You know why? When you ask them, which the business press does, we're not going to invest in producing more goods and services. We can't sell what we now produce. There's no money in investing this tax saving. But that was the rationale given by the Trump administration. We're going to give them the loan because they're job creators. No, they're not. They never were. You only create jobs if you think you can sell what those jobs produce. They know they can't. Partly they can't because others in the world are doing a better job. Partly they can't because the American wages have gone nowhere in 30 years, and so there's no purchasing power here. The latest statistics indicate, released this morning, consumer credit is taking off again. Americans are once again, in the face of no wage increase, making that terrible decision, I'm going to go into debt. Not just for the students for school, but now the general credit, the revolving credit, credit cards, auto loans, all the rest. So what is Mr. Trump's plan? Like Mr. Obama, he's not going to change anything. There's nothing he's proposing to change anything. Corporations will do their thing. They'll pay lower taxes than before, but that's not a basic change.